now during COVID-19. What's your advice?
Well, I think it is an opportunity for a lot of startups to think about pivoting a bit. For example, we worked with a startup that was a premium Uber sort of disruptor where the company owns its own cars and employees. Obviously, ride sharing has declined. However, what they offer now is a delivery service for very high-end, important kinds of deliveries like papers and so forth. So suddenly they're actually busier than they were when they were just a ride-hailing service. And I think in every startup situation, you just have to look at the impact of COVID. And in some cases, you can actually pivot into a related business. In other cases, it's just riding that wave of digital transformation.
Yeah. So, Sean, you're a chief design officer at a major corporation. Walk us through what life is like for you right now, and how things have changed over the last 3 to 4 months.
Well, at the start of all of this, of course, because we're in the healthcare space, we got an immediate kind of call to action to ramp up our ventilator production, ramp up our monitoring capabilities. So really then kind of difficult, galvanizing the troops, focusing project teams, getting everybody on the same page to really respond to this call to action, this need. At the same time, trying to then help our customers redesigning hospital systems, care delivery systems to cope with COVID and non-COVID patients. So before we knew it, we were sort of immersed and busier than ever, just trying to deliver projects. And, in hindsight now, we didn't have a lot of time to pause and reflect on the new reality that we were all living in. And that kind of hit us about 2-3 weeks in, when we suddenly started recognizing that people were working just night and day. And it became a bit of a Groundhog Day situation where every day was just kind of falling into a rhythm, into a pattern. And that was a big challenge for everybody. So thankfully, we stopped, we paused, we reflected, and sort of started to recognize the need to connect back to one another at a human level and have a bit of empathy for one another, that we're all juggling kids at home now, not going into the office, trying to figure out how to create a working environment in your home environment. It's not easy for everybody, but that took a few weeks before that reality hit us.
So, Sean, what have you learned? How do you stay creative remotely?
I think we recognized after a few weeks that the reality of this is very different depending on where in the world you are. And what may seem like a dream come true for somebody who's used to having to do long commutes to get into the office and studio, for others it's become horrendous, where they're trying to live and work in a very confined space with perhaps spotty Wi-Fi and kids who are no longer at school crawling over them during the day. So at the beginning, we were trying to figure out how we would muddle through all of this. And for instance, we saw, the dog barking, somebody ringing the doorbell, kids walking past as kind of disruptions. But we very quickly transformed into kind of celebrating those, because what we're getting to know is the people behind the face, the facade. We're getting to know the individual and their home circumstances. So actually, it's building much more empathy for one another and stimulating a deeper dialogue, and we're having more fun. We're doing things like MTV do visits to their crib. We're inviting our team members to take a 5-minute video tour of their home and share their passions, share their hobbies, show their creativity or their family, whatever they want. And now it's become a bit of a competition for people to do that. So we're having fun with it as well.
So, hey, Andy, a lot of companies are faced with reinventing themselves, but, unfortunately they can't hire you or Sean for that matter. What simple strategies of design thinking do you have for companies that anybody can use?
Yeah, I think there's some opportunities for pivoting, as I mentioned before, or disruption. So you take an industry like hospitality and restaurant business, when most of their business is through pickup and delivery, all of a sudden spotlight on that part of the supply chain where the restaurants are really being gouged by these various delivery systems. And so now that's an entrepreneurial opportunity for people to get in there and provide something more attractive to restaurants. And so I think every system that you're looking at from a design point of view. There's disruption opportunities. And I think the broader opportunity is just this huge wave of digital transformation. It's like been an involuntary, the planet has involuntarily moved to a more digital world and accelerated a lot of things that were going to happen anyway. And so I think areas like work from home, education, telehealth, all of these areas are going to accelerate very quickly because a lot of the hypothesis that you can do things digitally has been proven. So now it's just how do we do it better? So I think there's a lot of digital software opportunities that are being created right now.
Yeah, Sean, so people have to think differently. What advice do you have on gaining those skills, the skills that you have as a chief design officer? Where should they look to get the education? Or if they're looking to hire someone to do what you do, where should they look?
Well, I think you're really looking for people who've got this natural inquisitiveness. They want to understand the problem. They want to go deep on the problem. Design thinking at its root is all about empathy for those end users. But empathy without context is also not that useful. So understanding the circumstances that somebody is operating in, the circumstances and context of the user is vital in this as well. But I think creativity at its heart is also just about being really, really inquisitive and seeing possibilities, seeing opportunities. I mean, we're all as designers huge optimists, and that really is helpful in these situations that we're all facing right now as well.
Yeah, Andy, walk me through some of the pros and cons of starting a business right now or launching a new product. What are you seeing, and what's your words of caution?
Well, historically, in downturns, economic downturns is when some of the great companies are born, like the Googles of the world and so on. So you can debate why that is. I think one reason is that there aren't as many startups, and so there aren't as many ideas being duplicated many times. So if you have a great idea and you get it funded, you won't have as many competitors as quickly. I think picking markets that are going to grow is important, obviously. And there are a lot of digital markets that I think are going to grow. And then the other thing is just having enough cash. I mean, there's unfortunately, so many companies that are actually in a pretty good place in terms of their product design, in terms of their business plan, but it happened that they were wrong point in time in raising money, and they'll be swallowed up by somebody else. So I do think that it's a great time to be an investor. We run a venture fund as well as do design work. It's a great time to be an investor because the valuations are down significantly. I'd say as an entrepreneur, it's a good time. If you have a really great idea, you're going to have less competition. And there's still a lot of money out there. There's a lot of dry powder out there for investment.
Yeah, where are you investing right now?
Well, we're doing an Uber-like thing with a bus company in Mexico. So sharing vans. We think that's an interesting opportunity. We're doing invest in a VR company. The one digital area that has not taken off in this pandemic is VR, augmented reality, interestingly. And I think the technology just isn't there yet, but we're doing a really interesting kind of AI VR helmet technology that we think could be, pretty spectacular, plus very relevant to, this new digital world we're moving in. But then a telehealth startup.
All right, Sean, I want to hear your thoughts about the pros and cons of, starting a new business or inventing a new product. You told me last week things are moving, the FDA is approving things, moving things along quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I think this pandemic has really forced people to act quickly now, to think about the way in which the regulatory authorities are moving things through the system. We've never seen this rate of acceptance before. So I think this presents a great opportunity. As Andy mentioned, telehealth, telemedicine is an area that is ripe for innovation right now. And we see the rate of adoption just accelerating. I think fundamentally, we're going to see that patients, people, you and me, will not want to go to a hospital where they're treating COVID patients. So what we'll see is an adoption of decentralized care systems which are connected through digital means. So, and that doesn't just mean, going to a doctor and doing, let's say, a primary care diagnosis, but it could mean therapy as well, delivered in unusual settings, cardiovascular treatments happening in the high street. So we're going to see a whole new space of digital innovation in healthcare, right the way through from teledentistry to therapies and primary care and diagnosis.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Andy and Sean, thank you so much for your time. Stay well and take care.
Thank you.
Across the Western world, there's massive discontent and anger